Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to AlMaghrib's YouTube channel. Make sure that you turn on your notifications and subscribe so that you don't miss an episode. Alhamdulillah wa salatu salam ala Rasulillah. Welcome everybody to another episode of Rhyme and Reason, and we've got with us the one and only from the back cave, Bruce Wayne himself, Shaykh Saad Tasleem. Assalamu alaikum, Shaykh. Welcome.
Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah. Jazakallah khair. Thanks for having me.
Alhamdulillah, I'm very, very happy to have you. You are someone who merges all of the things that we, what this podcast hopefully is about. It's about culture, it's about art, it's about knowledge as well. And even before all of that, have you been doing? How's quarantine found you?
I'm well, alhamdulillah. Quarantine is quarantine, man. I mean, it's going, alhamdulillah. Honestly, I don't have anything to complain about, alhamdulillah.
You are a famous introvert.
Yeah, for sure.
So quarantine how has it changed your life at all?
Well, for the first 4 or 5 months, I was solid. I was like, this is the dream life. It felt amazing. And plus, I had been traveling almost nonstop since 2012, end of 2011. So to get that, break felt really, really good. But I think now I'm getting to the point where I kind of feel like part of my identity is missing, because so much of my identity is tied into teaching people in person, connecting with people in person. So I do feel that aspect to be missing right now.
Alhamdulillah. So you're ready to get back on a flight, go see some people?
I wouldn't take it that far. But yeah, okay, sure. Yeah, I'll be down. I'll be down. I mean, as long as we can be safe and yeah, I'm down.
Alhamdulillah. So our goal in this podcast is to talk about knowledge, culture, art, the intersection of these three things. And I'm very happy to, you studied at the University of Medina. You came back. Before that, did you complete a degree in graphic design?
Yeah, so I did. I do have a degree in graphic design. Before I left, I've always had this creative itch that needs to be scratched. I've had I was talking about people had different needs. I've always had creative needs that need to be fulfilled. So yeah, alhamdulillah, I did finish my degree before I left. I was a practicing graphic designer, before I went to Medina.
So when you say creative need, is that something that you still feel do you still practice any sort of art at home, even when things that nobody sees? Because I watch your Instagram all the time. I don't see for example, any sort of graphic designs coming out from you.
Absolutely. I do have creative needs and they need to be fulfilled, and I'm constantly doing stuff. I just don't share every single thing in my life on social media.
Yeah.
But there is a lot of stuff that I do, whether it's sketching, drawing stuff, that aspect, even design stuff. Sometimes I will give myself design projects, just to get my creative juices flowing. And that is actually one of the main reasons that I started my own clothing line. I realized that I need to have a creative outlet in one way or the other. So being able to design clothes, and there's actually, I mean, if you notice, we've only released 2 pieces so far, but even in those 2 pieces, there's a graphic design element to my clothes.
Absolutely.
And I think that
the Arabic script on the front, I've seen.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah.
Yeah, the Arabic script, I mean, the way it's placed on the clothes, all that stuff, the graphic design influence is there in my clothes. And yeah, so that's one of the main reasons I did, start a clothing line, is because I needed to, get my creative juices flowing. And I felt like I was missing in my life. When I got really involved in teaching and lecturing and traveling, it's often hard to find time for that stuff.
So when you describe it as a need, at the University of Medina, and specifically, I want to talk about specifically fashion. At what point Was this just something that was always a part of you? Like you were just very stylish, even as a kid, you were very particular about what you wanted to wear and how you looked. Was that something that was always a part of you?
No, it wasn't always a part of me in that particular manifestation. But I did, what was always a part of me was the need to express myself
Okay.
in some way. So, you know, physically, like the way you look and the way you dress is one way of expressing yourself. I think that came about more so later on when some of the other options were off the table. For me, music was a big part of my life. So that was one way for me to express myself, who I am, my identity, what I'm about, my feelings, and so on and so forth. Like I had the need to put that out there in one way or the other. And then, you know, so that aspect was always there in some form. But in terms of like dress and clothing, I guess, you know, I've never not cared. I was always conscious of what I do wear. But I think self-expression through clothes is something that really developed a little bit later when, you know, I realized that I do need to express myself, and that's one of the halal options that are available to me.
So this is really interesting. So you actually were able to shift one aspect of creativity to another. So you expressed it originally through music, and I know that you were.
I would say music and art, both of them were
What
hand
do
in
you
hand.
mean by art? Oh,
Um,
graphic design. So you're always.
Graphic design, or even like I always loved drawing and sketching. So that was since I was very little. I remember I would sketch and draw. I remember back in the day, it was like I would draw Ninja Turtles and stuff. I would take like the Ninja Turtle figure that I had and try to like, you know, draw it and stuff. So that need was always there. So even while like doing music, I still consider myself an artist in terms of like fine art and things like that.
Hmm. And then you made a conscious decision to close that door, and another door opened, or you searched until you found something that you liked.
No, I didn't search. It was just, I think it for me, it just came organically, right?
Hmm.
Naturally, when the way you dress at home versus the way you dress outside, being standing in front of 200-300 people, obviously, just natural. It's within us that we're gonna make more of an effort to make sure like we look the way we want to look, or you know, to take care of how we look. So from there, I started to. It was very organic. I remember realizing this shift kind of when, you know, I was planning for Elm Fest Malaysia, and I think this is the first Elm Fest Malaysia. And I was like, what am I gonna wear, right?
Hmm.
And I started planning my outfits. You know, I think it was a 2 or 3 day event. It's like day one, day two, you know, and kind of putting my outfits together. And I actually even there's one qamis that I wore. I'm sure there's a picture of it somewhere, where I printed it like myself. I went to like the craft store. I bought some like ink and stuff, and I put a print down. I had a white qamis. So I'm like, I'm going to customize that. I put like a print down in like the middle of it or the side of it, which is actually inspiration for one of our pieces now.
Yeah.
But I'm like, okay, so it kind of came naturally, like organically, you know, it just developed in that way.
And so this is something that came after you were, because the question that I had was that, you know, being a student at the University of Medina, you're in a very, I guess when you think of like, you know, students there, you think of like kind of uniform dress.
Yeah.
Everyone's it's not necessarily a uniform, but it's definitely like a particular style. And you don't think of people walking around with like prints on their shirts or their qamis or what have you. Was this something that caused you, did you still feel like you had the need to express yourself even while there? Was it suffocated anyway? Were you allowed to express it in any way?
So I wouldn't say suffocated. That's a little bit of an extreme word, but I do feel like it was kind of toned down, and I very much, my perception of the way I dressed and you know, most of the students dressed there was, it's like a uniform. And my teachers, my mentors, my shuyukh, in having these conversations with them, you know, I came to that understanding that this is the urf over here, right? This is the custom of students of knowledge. They're expected to dress a certain way. And there is room for creativity even there, but not as much as I personally would like, or personally what I would consider be part of my personality. But I never felt restricted. For me, being there, I had a higher purpose. So I never felt like, oh, I'm missing out on wearing something that I really want to wear or whatever. And plus, also looking good is also looking good in the environment that you're in the culture that you're in. So if I were to wear something that I consider cool or whatever, and in that environment it's considered very odd, then I kind of haven't fulfilled the purpose of dressing nice or looking nice. So I really didn't feel restricted when I was in Medina. I was very comfortable, alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah. That's a great point. Looking good is relative to the place that you're in and the position that you're in, and the customs of the people around you. And it's something that I think people kind of sometimes miss out on, and they have a particular idea of what of expressing themselves, and everybody needs to just, you know, it's that notion of being unapologetically yourself.
Yeah.
Not realizing that you can be unapologetically yourself while still taking into account the circumstances that you're in.
Yeah.
So right now you've got the Saad Tasleem collection. That's the name of your fashion line, correct?
Yeah. Yeah.
What? Tell me what that was like. I mean, that's still a pretty shift. When you think of a sheikh, you don't necessarily think of a sheikh having a fashion line. A clothing store is one thing, but a fashion line is another. Was that something that you struggled with? Did you feel like, you know, I don't know if I you know, how people will perceive me? What was the mental, you know, thought process going into that?
Yeah, absolutely. It is something I did struggle with, and I actually, to a certain degree, I still struggle with it. You know, my identity as like a teacher and educator and so on and so forth, giving people Islamic knowledge and tarbiyah. And then, you know, once you say fashion line, it automatically people think of business, right? And money's involved. And we know the relationship between knowledge and money can be, you know, what can you say? It can be controversial at times. And
Mm.
so the thing that like I knew is something I had to do. Like I knew, as I said earlier, I did have this creative need. I needed to be fulfilled. I was already making clothes for myself. And actually one of my business partners, my main designer brother by the name of Marine from Montreal, the way we hooked up is I would you know, I think he attended one of my seminars in Montreal, and I found out he's a fashion designer. He went to school for it, and I went up to him like, hey, you know, I want to, oh, there's this particular thing I want to wear. Can you make it for me? And he's like, yeah, I can. So like I worked with him to make something that I wanted. And I was like, oh, this is cool. You know, I've always had this thing of wearing clothes that are made for me. They reflect who I am. And so, you know, to be able to have that freedom was amazing. Even, you know, so that whole process of doing all that, I came to realize that this is something that I could turn into a business. And one of the other dreams, goals, aspirations I have for life is to become financially independent, where I don't have to rely on my teaching, my Islamic lecturing, my da'wah as a source of income. And I, you know, I often, you know, studying the lives of the scholars and the early scholars, and they all, a lot of them, they had businesses, they had a separate revenue stream from their teaching. But nowadays, you know, the reality is it's very difficult to, you know, to live like that. So that's the other thing. And so it all made sense to me, but I was still apprehensive about people viewing it as, hey, I'm using my teaching to sell stuff to people.
Mm.
And I wasn't comfortable with that. And that's why even till today, you know, anyone who's attended a seminar with me, I don't market my stuff in my seminars. I don't even bring it up. If it's brought up, it's brought up because somebody introduced me and they said, oh, he's got a clothing line.
Yeah.
But in my seminar, I almost never, well, you know, never is an absolute statement, but I'm pretty comfortable with that. Almost never. I don't think I've ever, you know, even consciously mentioned my clothing line in my teaching. And that is to kind of separate those two worlds.
MashaAllah. So you
Um,
don't come wearing Saad Tasleem collection while
well,
teaching?
I do. So that's the thing, right? Because that's the primary purpose of my clothing line, is to make clothes for myself.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I do wear that stuff, and you know, if someone does come and say, "Hey, where'd you get this from?" Whatever. Um, Before I would kind of, you know, avoid the question. Now I'll usually say like, "Oh, saadtasleem.com," and people are like, "Oh, haha, very funny," and I'm like, "No,
Yeah.
no, I'm serious. Like, it's there." And then people are like, "What?" And then so in that way, yeah, obviously it happens. But that's the other thing, and that's why still I'm a little apprehensive, is because it's impossible to separate the two, completely separate the two. No matter what, people are going to associate, you know, one with the other.
May Allah reward you for that intention. I mean, that's definitely the 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 way to look at it when a person is really من استبرأ لدينه or من اتقى الشبهات فقد استبرأ لدينه وعرضه, trying to avoid doubtful matters as much as you can, that you preserve your integrity and your religion. Um, but I would I would see also that there were so many people, when you're inspiring so many people, and you're you know, people are in need of and when people go to like conventions and things like that, they love being able to take these things back because it extends the experience and it reconnects them with a particular experience that they had. And so,
Yeah.
I mean, I would be all for seeing Saad Tasleem collections when I go to attend a Saad Tasleem seminar. I'd be all for it. I definitely want to be able to take something back with me, to
We'll see. We'll see. I mean,
continue to be connected as well.
yeah. I mean, I hear that argument all the time, and you know, I do see the merit of it. I don't know if I'm there yet. For me, it's the harms and benefits, right? Like in I would say the vast majority of stuff that we come across in life, you know, that doesn't have a clear hukam on it, clear ruling. We're weighing the harms and benefits, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so we'll see. We'll see. I don't know if I'm there yet. And that's why all of my stuff is actually very limited in quantity. It's not supposed to be, and that's kind of to take me away from that the mass selling idea as well, where if I have 1,000 pieces, then I need to constantly be hustling, right?
Yeah.
Like, oh, we need to finish this inventory, sell these 1,000 or 5,000 pieces. But if I'm producing 50 or 100 pieces, it's like, hey, the first 50 or 100 people who want it, they got it, it's done, let's move on, right? And it kind of takes the burden of like always marketing, which marketing for me is till today, it's really weird when it is applied to anything to do with the deen, you know. And that's why even with AlMaghrib, I constantly struggle, you know. Right now where we launched Deception, my online seminar,
Yep.
there's a lot of marketing that's attached to it.
Yep.
And every time I see an ad for it, I'm like a little bit of me is like uncomfortable, you know. And I'm like, are people seeing ads, and like, how does it feel? And are we just marketing, you know? So I'm still not 100% comfortable with the idea, you know? And when I do hear criticisms, I'm like, yeah, I think part of that is a valid criticism.
You know, I just have a friend of mine who is a sheikh, and I saw a flyer in for a program that he's doing, his community's masjid, you know, and they put out a flyer for his event and stuff like that. It was a horrible flyer, horrible title, horrible, everything about it was wrong. And so I messaged him and I said, like, you hurt my feelings with this flyer. And he responds back and he goes, you know, I had nothing to do with it and things like that. At some point, when things aren't marketed well at the same time, when nobody's marketing, or when, you know, people aren't, because it's principles at the end of the day. It's advertising principles, it's marketing principles. This is stuff that's being studied and tested and studied and tested and studied and tested.
Yeah.
And when this isn't being implemented with regards to the khair, you can best believe that's being implemented with regards to all of the vices and all of the evil and all of Shaytan, speaking about the devil, deception. I mean, he's got his army putting this stuff into practice day and night. And so I understand that it's awkward, but I also understand that it's super necessary.
Yeah.
Super necessary. So,
Yeah, and that's, once again, it's the
absolutely
harms and benefits, right? So that's why I did allow some of this stuff to go, even though I know the AlMaghrib marketing team isn't like completely happy with me, because there's stuff that I'm like, no, like, don't do that or whatever. So,
It's everybody. Everybody's got, I mean, I think for most people, it's awkward when it's yourself. So it's when
yeah,
yourself and you're saying, hey, attend that class with me. But speaking about deception, because I did want to talk about deception
yeah.
as well. This is a course that's online and it's about Shaytan. But what made you, let's go all the way back. What made you, your first course with the Maghrib was fiqh of chilling,
Yeah.
which was the fiqh of entertainment and recreation in Islam. What made you say, my next course, I want it to be about Shaytan in particular? We're going to spend an entire weekend talking about Iblis and learning his tricks and his
Yeah. Yeah. So my first course was fiqh of chillin, entertainment and recreation in Islam. It was marketed as, this fresh seminar, this a young hip instructor, all that kind of stuff.
you were on a motorcycle driving in the
Yeah.
advertisement, looking all cool and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hoodie on. Uh-huh.
So so that was like the first impression a lot of people got from me, and then I kind of got put into that. They
Box.
say like actors get typecast. That's almost how I felt,
Yeah.
which sounds weird, but that's how I felt. And I was like, wait, there's so much more to me than because a lot of people have this perception of, oh, this class is only for like young people and teenagers and stuff like that, and it actually wasn't just for the younger crowd. All the adults and the especially parents actually benefited a lot from that seminar, because they got a good finally got some insight into these issues that young people are dealing with. But so after that, a lot of people are like, oh yeah, what's your next young hip class or whatever? And I'm like, no, I'm not going to let this happen. And so, the idea of this seminar, this was actually an idea that I had all the way back in Medina. I actually tell this story in my seminar, and I'm not going to tell you the whole story. It's just a long story, but I started, starting to think about human psychology and human behavior and why we do certain things and so on and so forth. And then I just, one day in Medina, I had this, we were studying tafsir, and we came across some ayat in which, Iblis speaks. We hear the speech of Iblis in the Quran. And I was like, this is amazing. We have documented in the Quran what Iblis said. And I said, why don't we study the psychology of Iblis, of the Shaytan? We have his speech. What are his motivations here? Why is he saying this? What does this tell us about, his psychology? What does this tell us about how he feels about himself, and so on and so forth? So I was like, that is something that I had from Medina. I've had that on my mind. I do want to prepare something and teach it. And for me, if I really want to get something done, I make it official. And that way I'm forced to do it. Otherwise, it's never going to get done. So when AlMaghrib was like, new seminar or whatever, I was like, yep, let's make it about the Shaytan. And let's make it about, make it about studying the psychology of the Shaytan. And that's where it came about. And that's why, I know a lot of times people hear about this seminar, they think about jinn, and they think about possession and magic and this and that or whatever. And I think even in the marketing for the seminar, some of that stuff has been going out. And I'm like, no. This is not about the jinn and about possession and magic and this and that, whatever. That's not the purpose of the seminar. The purpose of the seminar is to understand the impact of the Shaytan on our spirituality, and how and to understand why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala referred to the Shaytan as our enemy, and he's a significant part, or he has a very serious impact on our connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that's why people who have taken this seminar, they consider it a seminar on spirituality, which is not the impression that people will get if you just look at a lot of the marketing for it. Even the posters like smoke and dark and this and that.
Yes.
And people are like, oh, you're gonna tell jinn stories and stuff. Like, no, that's not what this seminar is about. Yeah. So that's the story of.
So you don't tell jinn stories in the seminar?
I have in the past kind of like given up and told a jinn story, but I normally don't. And I usually tell them.
Do you have like a good jinn story you can tell us?
No, I don't. That's the other thing. All my great jinn stories are from someone else, like Sheikh Waleed or like Kamal al-Makki or whatever. And I'm like, listen, first of all, I'm not the person to come listen to if you want to hear good jinn stories.
Yeah.
I don't even like that kind of stuff. You know, someone says, oh, you know, there's a brother, you know, someone feels like they're possessed. I'm like, yo, keep me away from that person. You know, can you do ruqya? No,
No.
no, no, don't mess with that stuff. Don't, you know, I don't have nothing to do with it. So I'm like, I'm not the person to talk about that stuff. Sheikh Walid, on the other hand, by the way, he's the man, right? He
Yeah.
and actually, we have another seminar on Maghrib, you know, that deals with the world of the jinn. You
Yeah.
know, the what is it called? Light of Guidance, I believe, where he talks about, you know, the angels and the jinn and so on and so forth.
Oh, Raise of Faith. Yeah.
Raise of Faith, Raise of Faith. Yeah, yeah, that's the one. So I'm like, that's Sheikh Walid's department. You know, he can handle that. But if you want to talk about, you know, the methods of deception of the Shaytan and you know, all of that, yeah, that's what this is really about.
What do you see as being like the trick of Shaytan that he uses time and time again that people just don't see? Like you see it now, but other people just, or people just continue to fall for it. I know you go over a number of the tricks in the on the course, but what's like one that you just keep seeing day in and day out?
So it's really hard to say just one method of deception. So one of the other things that I wanted to do in this seminar was, instead of just saying, oh, here are the tricks of the Shaytan, I want to look at how the Shaytan customizes his methods based off of the person who he is attacking. So someone who is struggling in a certain aspect in their life, the Shaytan will attack them from that angle. Someone else may be struggling with it with a different issue. So the way that, for example, the Shaytan will attack a scholar, right, or an imam, is not the way he will attack someone who is a layman, right? He's going to use a different method of deception. He's going to attack them in a different way. So that's what I did want to analyze in this seminar. We do that, right? We take examples of different categories of people and how the Shaytan may attack them. And for me, it was also important to present like real life examples. I don't know. It's hard, man. It's hard to make a generalization like that. I think one of the things that I've seen, which is very common amongst many people, is to believe that the Shaytan is not deceiving us, right? So pretty much every category of people, you know, whoever you may be, you know, you be like a religious Muslim, non-religious, scholar, non-scholar, whatever, you know, most people tend to think like, oh, I'm okay, right? The Shaytan's not good. He didn't get me. He's not deceiving me.
And I'm right on this issue that I'm passionately arguing on behalf of or fighting on behalf of. I'm not deceived by Shaytan in this moment.
Yeah. And I've heard people talk about the Shaytan and still not acknowledge that they themselves could be deceived by the Shaytan. Right? Like you believe in the Shaytan, you believe the Shaytan is their enemy, you believe the Shaytan deceives people, deceives everybody, but what, you're the exception? Right? Yeah. That doesn't make sense to me. But it's a very powerful trick. So the Shaytan's like, go ahead, believe in me. Go ahead, khalas. You don't, you know, most people don't say, a lot of people say I'm not real. Go ahead, believe that I'm real. Believe that I can deceive. You know what? Here's all the ways I deceive people. Khalas, go ahead, take it all. But don't worry about yourself. And that is so, subhanAllah, the Shaytan is ingenious the way he works, right? And so that is so powerful because you can believe everything, learn everything. Even, you know, people can learn everything about the Shaytan, but then, you know, they themselves is like, oh, but me, I'm good. And that's why one of the things in the seminar that we do is there's a section where we say how this, you know, it says how this method of deception affects me. All right. And students are supposed to take some time and to really contemplate their life and how this method of deception is affecting them personally. Yeah.
Sheikh, that leads to, when you talk about Shaytan, I have another question on whether you talk about this in the seminar, because your poster is like smoke and dark and things like that. People's ideas of Shaytan, when they imagine Shaytan in their mind, it's that caricature or that description that comes from Christianity with the horns and the face and the goatee and the pitchfork and things like that.
Yeah.
Do you actually describe Shaytan in the seminar, and what can you share?
We do go over the physical description of the Shaytan. There's a section that says, what does the Shaytan actually look like? And I don't want to spoil it. I don't want to spoil the conclusion that we come to. But look, I will say this, right? A lot of times people have difficulty believing in the shaitan because there is that caricature of the shaitan that is in our culture, right?
Yeah.
That, Judeo-Christian idea of the devil and how the devil looks, and so people are like, well, you believe in this magical figure, right? Like he's red, he's got horns, and he's got a pitchfork and this and that. Like, how ridiculous is that to believe in that, whatever. And in actuality, Islamically, we don't really have that issue. I'm not going to say much more than that. And that's the other thing, Islamically, we are never supposed to be scared of the shaitan. Like in a lot of other cultures and a lot of other religions, the devil or whatever is supposed to scare you, right?
I mean, even the jinn, people are terrified of the jinn.
Yeah, you're supposed to be scared. And I'm like, no, we're not supposed to be scared. We're supposed to be vigilant when it comes to how the shaitan may take us away from worshiping Allah or may interfere in our spirituality. And there's a very big difference between being frightened and understanding it in a spiritual context. And that's why this whole Halloween thing, I'm like, as Muslims, like, we don't believe that the shaitan's gonna come, like, boo, ghosts and ghouls and things like that or whatever, that you're supposed to live being scared. And that is, by the way, one of the reasons, like, I'm not really in the favor of like going and telling jinn stories and stuff, right? Because it almost makes it like, it trivializes the issue. Because it's just like, oh, it's a spooky thing, it's a scary thing, and that's not, we don't walk around being scared of the jinn and things like that. That's not the purpose. And even, by the way, when it comes to kids, right? One of the questions I often get is like, how do we talk to our kids about the shaitan?
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, first of all, you need to make sure that they're not afraid of the shaitan. You're not making them afraid of the shaitan. The shaitan's not going to come in the middle of the night and be like, boo, that's not what's going to happen, right? So you have to empower them. That you're not supposed to be afraid of. Yes, you're supposed to be vigilant. You're supposed to understand the methods of deception of the shaitan, how the shaitan takes us away from Allah, how he deceives us, and so on and so forth. That is how we educate our kids and everyone about the shaitan.
Interesting. Even when you mentioned the psychology of Iblis, like he feeds off of all of that. Like even when he gets cursed, you say Ta'isa Shaytan, like it makes him kind of like, it inflates him. It inflates his ego. And so the more hate, the more fear, the more curses he gets, the more he becomes inflated, which is like really, really weird. Not just weird, but it's like, it's messed up. Right?
Yeah. I'm sure the shaitan loves it that he's almost become a joke now. Like people don't take his deception seriously because it's almost like a joke, right? It's like, oh, you believe in ghosts, right? Oh, you believe in the devil, like it's just like, khalas, people don't have to really worry about that concept at all.
So that's an online seminar. It's an online course. People can find out more at www.almaghrib.online.
Yes.
Moving on from deception. I want to do a quick discussion with you on something that's very important, and I know that you're also very passionate about, and you defend with quite a lot of vigor. And granted, you are much more knowledgeable on this topic than me because this is something that you've been studying for years and have expertise in, and that is the debate about Marvel versus DC. And you are you're in a minority position. You're you're like a Lahiri, basically. You're like just Ibn Hazm, just slicing everybody up. And that is...
the truth is not always with the majority, Habibi. You know this.
Yeah, so you're obviously with DC. You're basically like the one person who's a DC fan. Can you explain to us just, I mean, you've got some, like, is this something like you found we found our forefathers on a path and we're following it? Is this something like, is it that, or is this something upon like actual research?
But I would accuse Marvel of that.
That they have found their forefathers on a path?
Yeah. Oh, this is what's popular. This is what's mainstream. This is what everybody's into. So you know what? It's better.
Without any actual...
Yeah. I mean, what takes courage is following something that is not mainstream, that is not popular.
I see.
I would say that is, that's more woke, I would say.
You're actually wearing the Zack Snyder's cut t-shirt. Were you part of the group that got that released?
Well, I don't want to take, I don't want to say gotten like, part of the group got it released. I definitely was rooting for it. And I definitely, I don't know, did I sign the petition? I don't know if I don't really sign petitions.
Yeah,
But I definitely did like tweet the hashtag and stuff.
I see.
So yeah, I do. Yeah. The fans made it happen, right? Obviously, after Allah Subhanahu wa Taala, the fans made it happen. I'm a
Okay.
fan. So yeah, we did it. Alhamdulillah.
Okay. So, but what is the, because, okay, I actually did not grow up in that world. Obviously, everybody recognizes the greatness of Batman. Batman is على العين والرأس. تجاوز القنطرة. He is beyond, the amount of he probably has the best villains out of any
Yeah.
superhero. And
Yeah.
I think he might even have the most. But when it comes to the other guys, like, I don't even know who the other guys are. Like Superman.
Whoa, hold on. You don't know who Superman is?
Like, I know Superman, but I don't know anything about like his villains. I have no idea.
Doesn't
Like,
matter.
villain Lex Luthor. Like, who is Lex Luthor? What does he even do? I have
Doesn't
no
matter. Superman is an icon. He's iconic. You think of
idea.
superheroes, you immediately think of Superman. That's it.
I don't even think of him, to be honest. Like,
Well,
you know what's my problem with Superman is that he's too strong. He's too maxed out in everything.
so
Right?
your problem with Superman is that he's too awesome?
He's too much. Like, he doesn't do anything. Like, they put everything in his favors. He destroys entire cities, and nobody can touch him except for with kryptonite, and that's it. And then he dies. And
Well,
it's just,
that's the amazing thing, right? So that's one thing I think Zack Snyder did with the Man of Steel, his Superman film, and that's why a lot of people didn't like it because it wasn't their vision of how Superman is supposed to be, all red, white, and blue, and the good guy, and
was he not the good
always.
guy in Man of Steel?
No, he was a good guy. Yeah, of course, he was a good guy. But I mean, like the guy who does no wrong and doesn't make any mistakes, and and he's just saving the cat from the tree and all that kind of stuff, right? And always smiling. Even though, by the way, people accuse Zack Snyder's Superman of not smiling. He smiled a lot in that movie, but that's fake news.
So wait, people want him to smile, or they don't want him to
They
smile?
want him to smile.
Oh, they
Right?
want him
They're
to
like,
smile.
oh, he's supposed to be a cheery, happy character, right?
Okay,
He's
and they
not
made
supposed
him
to be
dark.
Batman. Why'd you make him dark and so on and so forth? But what Zack Snyder did was he said, look, if there was a being like this that was so much more powerful than the average human being on Earth, what would that world look like? What is the reality of that world? He throws a punch, it has serious implications.
Yeah.
He's fighting Zod, right? And they're crashing through buildings, and the cities. Those are real world That's the reality of what would happen. And
First of
how
all,
does that? How does that?
is Zod, is his name is Zod, the guy he fights?
General Zod, yes.
Saad Tasleem? That's a good one, right?
I haven't heard that one before. No, but that's the thing. Shaykh Ammar, that's the thing, right? Like, so to me, that's why that film was successful. Like, to me, that was an awesome film because that's so that we never looked at Superman. That's why Superman was always boring. I agree with you, right? So powerful, defeat anybody. I agree with all of that, and that's why I think Zack Snyder's take on Superman was excellent. Because he also looked at the implications of, look, what happens, let's say Superman shows up today, right?
Yeah.
How is the world going to view him? Is everyone going to be on his side? They're going to be like, oh, great.
No, it's too much power.
Too much power. We live in a divided, polarized world. There's going to be people who are going to say, this is the worst person in the world, and people can call him a terrorist, people, propaganda on both sides or whatever. No. And that is. And then the internal struggle that Superman himself, Clark Kent, would go through. Right? People are constantly criticizing you. We know how that feels, right? Being criticized, this and that, and a lot. How does that affect you? There are times where you feel like
he's an immigrant as well.
He's an immigrant, absolutely. He's an immigrant, and he's fighting for people. He's fighting for his people that say you're not from us. Come on, man. We know that. We know that pain, right?
Yeah.
And so. Yeah, man. I think we need to sit down and have an even longer discussion.
So who's your favorite then out of the DC characters?
Well, that should be a given.
Who's the password to all of your email accounts and stuff like that? Who's your favorite here?
Well, that should be clear. Obviously, it's Batman.
Mm.
Because Batman, he's a G, man. I mean, you can't,
No superpowers, zero.
exactly. He
Okay.
does have, actually, he does have a superpower, depending on which iteration, like of Batman. But his superpower is his intellect.
Mm.
Yeah, and that's why, as powerful as Superman is, Batman can defeat him, and is actually as powerful as the Justice League is. Right? And we're talking about Superman. We're talking about Wonder Woman. We're talking about Green Lantern. We're talking about Flash. We're talking about all these super powered beings, and then Batman can take him out. Right?
Take all of them out.
He can take him out.
Wow.
He can take out the whole. He
that.
could take out. People say like, "Oh, Marvel is greater." He could take out the whole Avengers. No problem. No problem. He could do it.
Because Batman's intellect would be matched by Iron Man's intellect.
Yeah, but
Stark and Batman's wealth would be matched by Tony's wealth. Right?
Yeah. So
they're kind of similar in that sense, actually.
They are similar because Iron Man's a ripoff of Batman in that way. A lot of Marvel characters are actually ripoffs of DC characters.
It's not vice versa. We need to study the history of these guys.
Yeah, so if you study the history, you'll find there are, I don't want to say all, because not all of them, because some of them it went the other way, but most of them, I would say, are actually Superman. DC had a character, and then Marvel was like, "What's our version of this?"
So
not
all.
Would be
Superman. Thor would be Superman.
No, Thor wouldn't be Superman. I mean, there are aspects of Superman that are found in Thor. I think Thor would be closer to like the Wonder Woman idea.
Okay.
They
dress alike.
Yeah, in a way, right? But the whole gods and stuff like that, which is right? Not supporting that, obviously. Like the god of war and the god of thunder and this and that or whatever. So from that aspect, they're similar.
What about? To me, it's just Marvel has way more characters that are popular and appealing. Like even when you look at DC's category, they've got those 5, and then you don't know anybody. Like I don't know anybody after that.
Well, look, I think we have to. I think
just someone who's like pop culture. Like I had comic books when I was a kid, and when it comes to Marvel's like
name
whole crew that you just mentioned, the Avengers.
No.
In Spider-Man, and then you throw in the X-Men, and it's just
hold on. Name characters for me.
Name them for who? Marvel or DC?
Quickly, Marvel characters. Name them. Who do
Marvel?
you have? Yeah.
You've got Captain America, you've got the Hulk, you've got Iron Man, you've got Black Widow, you've got Hawkeye, you've got the X-Men, you've got Wolverine, you've got Storm, you've got Cyclops, you've got Jean Grey, you've got Beast, you've got Jubilee, you can just keep going.
Okay. I was hoping you'd say that, because here's the deal. We have to
Daredevil.
We have to separate the MCU. Like we have to separate the timeline, like pre-MCU, post-MCU, Marvel Cinematic Universe. Because the Marvel Cinematic Universe made certain characters popular that nobody cared about. Like who? Iron Man. Nobody cared about Iron Man.
That's fair.
Nobody cared. Hawkeye, Black Widow, nope. Like nobody cared about these characters. And with all due respect to Black Panther, right? Who cared about Black Panther? Right? That's
true. I didn't care about him growing up.
Right? Exactly. Daredevil. Nobody cared about Daredevil. Let's be real.
Daredevil. I don't know. There was a cartoon for Daredevil when I was a kid.
This is whatever. I will give you Hulk. I will give you Spider-Man. I will give you Wolverine.
Give me. Those guys are iconic. Hulk.
They're iconic, Wolverine, but they're still not
Spider-Man.
as iconic. They're still not as iconic as Batman and Superman.
Listen, when it comes to
I'll tell you this.
Batman and Superman, here, DC's top 2, Batman and Superman. I'll even give you Superman as iconic, even though I'm not a fan.
Even Wonder Woman. We'll put Wonder Woman there as well.
Wonder Woman.
As a female superhero, there's no one as popular as her. No one. Maybe. Even now, even with the popularity of the...
I feel like she's old popularity, though. Like, I never remembered anybody growing up caring about Wonder Woman.
It's because you're not a girl, man. I'm sure there's little girls that,
Maybe.
There was that Wonder Woman TV show.
In the 60s?
Yeah, Linda Carter, spin around.
I have no idea what that is.
Exactly.
I remember the Hulk show from like the 70s, but that's about it.
Yeah.
Of course,
Yeah.
then you got Adam West Batman. But
Yeah.
yeah, so it just seems like their characters are more mainstream, even if none of them have reached the iconic stature that Batman and Superman have. Like Superman and Batman, like they've got 10 movies a piece, it seems like, and everybody knows who they are. And I guess Superman might have fans. I don't know. But
Bro,
then
I'll tell you this.
after Superman and Batman, DC just drops off a cliff. Like if you're talking about nobody caring about Black Widow, I would argue Green Lantern or Black Panther. I would argue Green Lantern, nobody, even less people care about.
That's not true. That's not true. Maybe in your world, right?
My world is the non like super fan world. My world is just everyday people.
Right.
Like, no, that's what I'm talking about. I'm not a faqih when it comes to the Marvel business or DC or comics. I can't go into different parallel universes and you know timelines and things like that. I don't know about any of that stuff. But just everyday guys.
Look, so in this time, like right now, yeah, obviously Marvel characters are going to be more popular. They have like a really, really successful franchise, probably the most successful franchise in, you know, movie history, I think, you know, so obviously those characters are going to be popular. That doesn't mean anything to me personally. It doesn't mean anything, right? It doesn't make their characters better because they're popular, you know?
Fair enough. Great. Khairan, inshallah.
No, you agree DC is better than Marvel?
No, I don't agree, actually. I agree with your initial statement that the first two guys are more iconic.
Than anything Marvel has ever produced.
I won't even say that they're better. I'll just say that they're more iconic. Although Batman, I'll give you. Like Batman, I'll say is iconic, better. Like Batman is Batman.
There you go. That's what the people argue with me about Marvel, DC. I'm like, dude, look, all we need
is Batman.
Batman. No. You know what? We don't even need Batman. We don't even need Batman. You know what we need? No, listen. All we had to bring was Batman's villain.
Joker?
Yeah.
Well,
and we made and that movie made $1 billion.
Which, the Joker?
Yes, sir.
Did it?
Made $1 billion. Made us, dude, it's like competing with Avengers.
Come on, man. First of all, now I know you're in conspiracy theory world. We're going to have to fact check this. No way the Joker made
Go look it up. Go Google it. Google it.
I'll Google it right now.
How much money did the Joker make?
Okay, look.
And actually, if I'm not mistaken, it was the most profitable comic book movie in history.
How much money did the Joker make? The Joker made $1 billion.
Most profitable comic book movie. I'm not 100% on
Hold on 1 second, man. Hold on 1 second. When did
Look
this
that up
happen?
too. Most profitable comic book movie.
How much money did the Avengers make? The original Avengers made 1.5 billion.
No. Sahih. I'm not saying it made more than the Avengers. Most profitable comic book movie in history.
Most profitable comic book movie in history. Joker. A box office report from Forbes noted that Todd Phillips' Joker, starring Joaquin Phoenix, is that how his name is said?
Joaquin.
Okay.
Joaquin, yes.
Joaquin Phoenix will reach a global total of 957 million, making it the most profitable comic book movie on all time on a reported budget of 62 million. Only 62 million.
So look, man, they brought the Avengers, we brought a clown. And we're like, peace.
That's a mic drop. MashaAllah. So I was not expecting it to have made $1 billion, to be honest.
That is how iconic Batman is, that we don't even need Batman. Even his villain will be enough.
I'm telling you, like, Batman and the Joker are both two iconic, characters. Like, I'm not going to, I'm a fan of both Batman and the Joker. Like,
there you go.
But
there you go.
The rest
debate over.
Beyond Batman and Gotham City.
You can't just tip
beyond Batman and Gotham City. Like once you get to like Green Lantern and Flash and.
No, it's because they haven't had
whoever else these guys have.
They haven't had the success of, Hollywood that Marvel has had. Give it some time. Once you have a few successful movies.
It's not even Hollywood. That's my point. It's even like cartoons, like.
Man,
Remember the X-Men Saturday morning cartoon? Do you
I
remember
do.
that?
But you know what I also remember?
Spider-Man, Batman, Batman had like
Yeah,
5
but there was
cartoons
also
over the years.
the Justice League animated.
Nope, don't remember it.
A lot of those very, very popular. Okay, very, very
Sure.
popular.
Okay.
I'm not gonna make you look up stuff again to prove you wrong. You know, I don't want
Yeah, I
to.
said, okay. That's fine. Like I said, you know, I entered into this conversation recognizing that I was not well versed in this world. I just had my own, you know, my own thoughts based on my own limited experience.
Look, I didn't even get into
Something new
this
today.
thesis that I have, you know, which I have to prove this thesis right now.
What is this thesis?
But just between me and you, okay? So
Yeah.
don't tell anybody I told you this. But I
And
have
people
this
watching,
thesis
yes. Yeah.
that I have. You know, there is some supporting evidence that I have for this. I haven't compiled it and checked it, double checked it to put it out there in the world. But the MCU, the Marvel Cinematic Universe, has continually been stealing DC's ideas. And and they've been successful with DC's ideas because they get to bring it to theaters first, or they bring it with a universe that is already established, and people will accept it and say, you know, oh, this is great. When DC had already done it or was planning on doing something like that, and it was stolen by Marvel. I'll just give you a little bit of
What are you talking about? They're sending people into their labs and like stealing their sketches, or like what?
No. So look, I don't want to get too technical, you know, with you, but Kevin Feige, the main guy at Marvel,
Okay.
he has been basically, it has been proven, it has been reported. Actually, the directors of Civil War, right? The two guys who made Civil War, they also made Avengers, or the Infinity War and Endgame and whatever.
Yeah.
They said.
By the way, do you go see these films or do you boycott them out of loyalty?
No comment. I'm not gonna comment on that. So
you don't want to expose your sins. You don't want to.
I was saying.
Or do you go and sit there in the dark where nobody sees you and you shed a tear? You're like, this movie is amazing. This movie, I hate the fact that this is a great movie.
Look, I'll give it to you, man. Look, Black Panther, I loved it. Even though, like, you know, there's parts of it that I really didn't like.
Yeah.
I think parts of it just fell into the same problems that all Marvel movies have. But there was so much that movie did that I truly appreciated.
Okay.
Other than that, Civil War. Actually, no, Civil War is bad. What came before Civil War?
Winter Soldier.
Winter Soldier. That was pretty good. That was pretty good. Civil War was basically a ripoff of Batman vs Superman. But so the Russo brothers, who directed Civil War, they said we were not planning on doing that movie until Kevin Feige found out that DC is doing Batman vs Superman. So then they decided to do this movie, Civil War.
I see.
And then if you look at the plot of both movies, there are so many similarities. There's so many ideas that they took. It's just that when Marvel does it, everyone's like, great, awesome. When DC does it, it's like, oh, what is this? This doesn't make sense. All the same type of stuff. For example, I'll give you one example. Look, I don't want to make this too long. I don't want to get too much into this, but I'll just give one example. People say, oh, Lex Luthor's plan in Batman vs Superman is so convoluted, it's so complex, and how did he know this is going to happen? How does he know this is going to happen? Blah, blah, blah. If you look at the Civil War villain, I don't remember his name. If I thought about it, I'd remember it. Whatever.
Was like some random dude.
Yeah, the dude, that character that they, anyway, his plan, if you think about it, if you actually lay out his plan, it's like ridiculous to think that, all of the steps that he had planned would actually work out, and one thing would lead to another. And the way it all like happened, like he shows up at the end like, ha ha ha, it worked just as I planned. And it's because of me that you're both here fighting each other or whatever. But I mean, the chances of that actually happening, with the steps that he set up, it's ridiculous, right? That's just one thing. But there's so many. There's
kind of an intricate study that you're.
Yeah. And even when Zack Snyder's Justice League, the one that was supposed to happen, when that comes out, and when which was, by the way, way before Infinity War and Endgame. Find Endgame and Infinity War took so much from what Zack Snyder was going to do with
So you're saying the director's cut, which is going to come out, is going to show the original plan that he had.
So there's two original plans. Okay, there's the original plan that he had, which the executives at Warner Brothers were like, no, that's too out of the norm. People didn't like Batman vs Superman, so you can't do that.
Okay.
Right. There's that version, which absolutely would prove that, like, Marvel's Infinity War Endgame just took a lot of those ideas.
I see.
There was an aspect of time travel. There was an aspect of the villain winning first, like what's his name? Darkseid was going to win. You know, Justice League loses, and then they come back. They go back in time, and then they do some stuff or whatever. Yeah, and then that's how they defeat him or whatever. That same thing. Well, Zack Snyder already had that planned out, right? That's one. Then there's number two, which is what Zack Snyder's vision that he's able to do now, which is going to be similar, but I don't think it's going to be everything of what Zack Snyder initially had planned for the movie after Batman vs Superman. Yes.
So we'll never know about the original plan.
No, we know because Zack Snyder has said on record, and he's talked about it so many times, of what that initial movie. We pretty much know what that movie was going to be.
Okay.
So that's why I said, look, it'll take some research. Unfortunately, I don't have the time to get into all this research and stuff right now. Maybe if I find some time, but I think somebody needs to really bring, because when you put something like this online, people are gonna be like, false, that's not true, blah blah. So you got to bring sources, everything.
You're gonna have a lot of haters, huh?
Exactly. Especially Marvel stands. They don't.
I was just about to ask you, do you have some sort of derogatory name that you guys call Marvel people? I'm sure you guys have something, some insult.
No, man. Just
Marvel stands, huh?
But it can be anything stand,
Yeah.
Basically, you know what a stand is. You'll accept anything and everything is great, because you're such a big fanboy or fangirl.
Jazakallah khair. I would say that this has been enlightening, but we just wasted everybody's like 40 minutes.
I know. I was going to say, are you sure you want to have this discussion? Because I'm sure a lot of people would be like, okay, I'm turning this off now.
Oh, this is what we're going to title the video. We're going to call it DC's Better Than Marvel, Here's Why, or something like that. But
Absolutely.
Just so that people know exactly what they're talking about. And so to bring this all back, I think we're just going to end it here, man. Jazakallah khair, Shaykh Saad. This has been, but it is actually wonderful to catch up to you, alhamdulillah. And this is actually the first time in all of our discussions where we've been able to delve into this. Usually it's you and Shaykh Ammar Al-Makki debating Marvel versus DC.
Yeah.
But the course is Deception. It's online at AlMaghrib.online, and you can check out the fashion collection or the fashion line at SaadTasleem.com. Anything else, Sheikh, that you're working on before I let you go?
Yes. So there's something that I told you about that other people didn't know about. And we weren't sure whether we're going to go ahead with it or not. But in terms of my clothing line, we have a plan to drop 4 pieces. واحد, اثنان, ثلاثة, أربعة. That's just what they're called: first, second, third, fourth piece. 2 of them dropped. Alhamdulillah, sold out. The 2 are stuck because of COVID and production or whatever. So we're kind of in that point right now where, we were supposed to drop those 2 pieces a while ago. So in the interim, I wanted to do something. So we're planning a special, I don't know if I should give it away right now. Okay, I'm not going to give away exactly what it is, but there is a piece coming out. It's not like part of the initial collection, but it's for charity, inshallah ta'ala, a special piece that we're going to drop that should be available soon, inshallah. So
when can people look out for that? Just
what's up?
Where can people look out for that?
Yeah, so if you follow us on Instagram, Saad Tasleem Collection, then you'll see the updates on there. You follow us on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. We have a page for Saad Tasleem Collection. So look out for that, inshallah. And I know you know what it is, but don't spill the beans right now. So
I won't, inshallah, unless anybody DMs me on Instagram. It'll be between us.
Alhamdulillah.
All right, Sheikh. Have a wonderful day. Inshallah ta'ala. See you soon.
Inshallah ta'ala. Jazakallah khair, man. Good to see you.
Allah barik feek. Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.